Evening. And yes, Doughty, you're not far off. I was just sorting out a spreadsheet. Because yes, I did remember that it is competition day. Did Claire remember? That's the question. Her silence would suggest hurried opening of tabs. Ziza, no, you didn't miss anything. We didn't have a stream on Sunday because it was my daughter's 16th. So my youngest child is now 16, which makes me feel quite old. Thank you. Yes, I am representing Wayland Yutani tonight. Okay, so competition time. What do I need? It's been a while since we did this. I need that tab, I need that tab, and you need a little me. How many we got in? 20 odd people. Okay, that'll do. Claire, are you ready? Oh, that's crazy for Estes. I can't even imagine that. It's weird enough that my youngest is 16, let alone an actual adult. So tonight we have to offer our thanks to T-Shane for giving us 2 captain ranks to give away, so thank you, T-Shane. So let's see who wins them. Okay, as always, we pick a number between 1 and 10,000. And our first one is 8928. And that would be the Reaper. Congratulations, you are now a captain. Should just wait for Claire to give me the all clear to move on. Oh yes, Danger Mouse. I did indeed get a haircut. About time too. Okay, our next number is 1832. And that goes to Mr. Slevin. For some reason I wanted to read that as McLovin. Congratulations, you are now a captain. Hey, CSI. Okay, and now we shall give away some dev build keys. The first key goes to 6971. Pick the right box. Oh, 2 winners. We've got Keeler Bob and Minnow Power. Well done both. Go ahead and have a key. No, I wasn't early tonight. I mean, I started early, but then it took me like 5 minutes to get all my tabs sorted. As is often the case. We actually got out the shower with 20 minutes to spare tonight. It's a record. Okay, the next key goes to 9730. Nope, missed the number. Pommes frites. Congratulations. I've been missing pommes frites on my diet. Yeah, just about, Max. Just about. Okay, and the last key goes to 8449. Oh, 2 winners again. Hyper, congratulations, and Radis Esquire, congratulations. Okay, well done guys. Claire will be getting in touch on Discord and she will be dishing out your goodies as needed. Right, so I can get rid of that and that. Okay, we don't need any of that. So if we have a quick look at some changes I made over the past few days, I took a bit of a rethink on the Radial menu slightly. And what options, hang on, turn music down a bit here because it's a bit loud. Yeah, what options are being presented and when. So it was the case that when you hover over something like one of the props and press F, then you were getting like all the normal Radial stuff. And then having like the prop as the top option, and the same with the chairs. So you'd have all the normal stuff plus the chair at the top, and ultimately it was just inducing an unnecessary click, because things like dance moves and emotes and interacting with the ship's AI are never going to be relevant, or at least like 99% of the time are never going to be relevant whilst you're looking at a prop. So generally speaking, if you're looking at a prop or you're looking at a chair, the things that you care about are going to be the things that are specifically relating to that target. So what I've done is I've basically made the default menu always relevant to the thing you're looking at. So of course, if you're looking at nothing, you just get the generic stuff. If you're looking at something specific, then you get the specific stuff without that additional click to have to go to that area. So it's just all in the name of smoothing off the experience. And when it comes to kind of dismissing the NPC and bringing them back, all that now works really slickly. Is that even a word? It's much smoother. So you can walk up to a chair, you can summon an NPC, and then say change the sensor mode, and then do stuff with it. It's all just click, click, click. It's all nice and simple. It doesn't require any flapping about. And similarly, if you want to sit in the chair and there's an NPC in the chair, you just click once with the left mouse button, dismiss the NPC, and sit down. It's all really kind of intuitive, and it's all kind of one motion now, rather than too many clicks to get things done. And the menu should stay. Oh, hang on a minute, I've just found a bug. Hurrah. Yes, the menu should stay when you need it to stay. So things like, dealing with like zooming and things on there. So if we go into our medium range, then we can increase and decrease the sensor range, and it doesn't get rid of the menu for those particular options whereas if you do something like a survey, it will get rid of the menu, because that's not something that's likely to require multiple clicks. So we can now control whether or not the menu stays there or not, which is an improvement over how it worked before. And similarly, when we have things like the chairs, again, the menu stays there when you dismiss or summon an NPC, because generally speaking, if you're adding or removing an NPC, you're going to then want to do something else. So if we leave the menu there and rebuild it every time, then we've got those options like immediately available without needing to go in and click on it again and bring the menu back up again. The other thing I did, and let's do this via here, so we've got a long range. I've changed how we interact with the holo display. I've mentioned before wanting to have a command target. So I've gone ahead and implemented that now. So if you click on something, it now just comes up as a command target. So you no longer get the little UI pop up, which was like impossible to read most of the time. So now it just says, right, that's your command target, that's what we're talking about. And now on here you've got a use command target, so you click that, and the sensors will then target the command target. So you can see sensors are now targeting that. Similarly over here I've also added use command target on here as well. So again, click that and you can see that they are now both using the command target. It does disappear every time the sensors refresh, so I need to fix that, but that's what it looks like when you've got all three things pointing at the same place. So generally speaking, the idea behind all of this is the person in command is interacting physically with the holo display. They're saying, right, this is my object of interest, this is my command target, and then when you turn to look at, say, the sensors or the helm, you're saying, like, navigate to command target. So you click it on here, and then you can tell them to go to it. And similarly on here, we'll have things like scan command target and other such things. When it comes to global commands on the bridge, that's where you'll essentially look at nothing, just press F to bring up the menu, and it will now default to orders at the top. So the first thing will always be the most significant thing. So you click on orders, and then you'll have sections for things like alert conditions, but most importantly you'll have those ship-wide orders available to you. So when it comes to like fully explore this star system, you would do it through here. So you would select, say, that star system there, you would then press F, go to orders, and then you would choose fully explore my target, or we'll word that as succinctly as we can because there's not much space on the menu. But that's generally how the command staff are going to interact with the bridge crew. Either it's going to be a general order which is spoken to the whole bridge, or it's going to be a specific order which is given to an actual specific target which comes up accordingly. Okay, so with that then, there's a few bits of this that are not working. So we don't have our general order for exploring the system, so we need to add that. And we also don't have navigate to command target working. Not quite sure why, because the command target's definitely there, we're just not moving, so we'll work out what's going on with that. And ultimately the cherry on the cake for all of this is every time we issue a command, we want those commands coming up on these jobs boards so that they can be actioned by the crew. So when it comes to navigating to this star system, as soon as we give the helm the command to navigate to the star system, on the helm jobs board, which I will move inside. Did I do that already? Oh no, it'll come up on bridge, wouldn't it? So yeah, so under the bridge one, there would be a helm entry for navigating to this particular set of coordinates. And that will stay on there as an active bridge task until we are at those coordinates, in which case it will be cleared off. So that's kind of, I guess, the final step in ship-wide task management and how we will be giving tasks to both the crew, as in the NPCs, and actual players themselves. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually, Danger Mouse. Yeah, I mean, we've got, obviously, our a mission timer up there. But yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have it on the UIs as well. Thank you, Delta. This is one I bought myself for once. Normally, Claire buys all my t-shirts. But yeah, I saw this one while I was out shopping and thought, ooh, I like that. I shall snag that for myself. Does the return home command work? Probably not. Yeah. I don't think any of those are at the moment. The dismiss NPC one's working. And the summon. So yeah, that's working. But yeah, none of these are. So we just need to go through and figure out where that command is stopping. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I've always been a huge Alien fan, and well, Aliens, the second one, was my favourite movie of all time for a long time. She did. Well, I sent her a picture of them and went, "Ooh, look at these," and then she responded with, "You need more t-shirts. You should get one." So I thought, you know what, I will. So I bought it with her blessing. I wouldn't have dared otherwise. Right, so on the menu then, I've tidied all this up too. So we did have, back on Friday's stream, we had like a whole bunch of stuff over here that was all messy. I've tidied all that up now into a nice neat little set of graphs. But when we go ahead and submit our command, what we're doing is we're sending this blueprint interface to our current pawn, which is this guy here, and then radial menu action is down here. So I imagine it's probably our gameplay tag channel that's failing us. Yeah, so if the helm is listening on helm, and I've sent it on the chair channel, which is quite likely. Let's just double check. Oh, I did. Yeah, I have. So yeah, so I've sent it on the chairs channel, not the bridge command helm channel, which is what it should have been. Fortunately, it's easy to change these now. Let's just see whether those are working a minute. I don't think the command target one will yet, but the other two should. So if we tell them to course I haven't added it to the menu yet, so yeah, same with them actually. I need to make sure this is added to the menu. Do that on the long range. You'll do. So one of the things that I need to smooth off with this is that it doesn't automatically scroll down to the highlighted option, and that's because we don't know in advance what number entry it is on the list. So we're going to have to figure that out, probably by using the array index or something, to work out where that object is. So where was it? Up there. So if it's already in view and you press the button, it will highlight it. If you scroll out of view and come back, you can see that it's no longer highlighted. And it's no longer highlighted because we tell it that it has been targeted. See, now it persists because we do that when we refresh the UI. So if we target that system and do that, you can see that it still thinks that that one's been targeted. So every time you scroll off and come back, it resets. So we just need to make sure that when we fire the use command target function, we actually properly update these with which one is selected. So there's going to be a few cleanup tasks that we need to do just to make sure that this is working as it should. But that should now, maybe not. Yeah, right, okay. Okay, so yeah, let's just follow this through and make sure that everything is broadcasting as it should do. We are sending that on command order. Okay, command order client. Command order client. Pass it through so it executes on the server. Okay, yeah, then we're broadcasting that action ID on the channel that we are selecting. So we're specifying that Helm channel there, and then we're broadcasting that out on that channel, and we're just sending our action ID. So wherever that is needed, we need to make sure we're listening to that channel. So in this instance, that's going to be our warp widget there. Yeah, so this is where we pick those up. Just make sure we're actually receiving those messages. Thanks, Nikolai. Appreciate it. Okay, so up here we've got those broadcasts coming through. So they are actually being received, which is good, and they're coming through on the server side, which is good. So the next question. So if that is coming through okay, and then we do need to add our use command target to this as well. And then we'll have to make an event for that one. So what it should be doing is simply pressing the same button as it does when you actually physically pressed the button. So if you press the button on the UI, then we are artificially pressing that same button through the broadcast. So we also need the command target one as well. So custom event. Use command target. So we'll just pop that in the same place so that we're just forcing that same button press on our broadcast. Okay, so I think what's probably happening here is that we're setting the target, but we're not actually initiating any movement. So let's just verify that a sec. So if we select Alpha Centauri, right now we've got no target coordinates selected. So if we pick navigate to command target, okay, there. So you can see that the coordinates did indeed update. And if we pick a different system, like Barnard Star, send that to the helm. Okay. So we've got a sensor target, which changed there, and command target, which changed again. So we are actually able to reference both of those targets, and similarly on here as well. So it is updating. What it's not doing is then it's not initiating going there. So that's the next thing on the list. So basically that's a case of engaging the autopilot and then engaging the FTL. I think what we'll do because we know we're setting this immediately, so what we could actually do is just stagger the event. So if all the relevant UIs receive the message at the same time, we can put a slight delay on the other two so that they fire in sequence. So we'll set the coordinates immediately, wait half a second, engage the autopilot, and then wait another half a second and actually engage the FTL. And we'll have the NPC play some dialogue as well at that point as well, just to give a verbal recognition that they're doing what you've asked. Okay, and similarly on this one. Dig that out in a sec. I can't remember where I was actually listening to the event. Might need to recreate that one there. If we go onto here, So bring up our autopilot, and we should have the same thing where we've got our gameplay message listener. Yeah, so I'll stick another one on here. So the actual targeting is done already. Oh, actually, no, we don't want to do it there, do we? We need to do it on the UI, not on the blueprint, because we need the UI itself needs to react as if the button's been pressed. So we want that on the widget. Yes, CSI. I've used both ChatGPT and Claude with various things. Mostly it's like I've got this really gnarly bug and I'm like pulling my hair out. So what I'll do is I'll just fire the code off at ChatGPT and say, right, what's wrong with it? Fix it. And a lot of the time it can, which is nice. It can look through lines of code much quicker than I can. I guess the most obvious example was the sun flare when you look out the window was rendering incorrectly in VR, and this whole thing was driven by like an HLSL shader custom code module, and basically the left and right eye offset was inverted, and I couldn't for the life of me work out how to uninvert the math for the two eyes. So I gave the whole shader code to ChatGPT, explained the problem in depth, and it was able to work out where in the code I got the math wrong, and provided the solution for swapping the two eyes over to get the sun flare to render in the right place. And I then also got it to optimize the glancing angle code for the sun flare, so that if there's only like a slither of it visible on screen, try and stop it flashing as much as possible, because otherwise the sun flare flashes in and out really, really obnoxiously. But yeah, it was quite helpful in fixing that. I find if it's like something you're creating from scratch, then I've never yet had it produce something that's been good, or something which hasn't required an awful lot of hand-holding. If it's something that already exists and you just want to optimize or improve or fix a bug, then it's much more capable doing those things. So yeah, I've had mixed results, but I definitely find it better for optimizing and fixing than creating new stuff from thin air. Yeah, don't get me started on that. Yeah, so this is what we're replacing, basically. So the old system used this this global event plugin, which we no longer want. Yeah, so what we'll do instead is we'll use this one. So we don't need to worry about disengaging it. So for any of these, we want to add a half-second delay, and then enable the autopilot. And then on the actual FTL widget, that's when we're going to fire the actual engines up. And I can't remember which one it was. No, it wasn't this one, it was the other one. I've called all three of these UIs something completely stupid, and I keep meaning to go and rename them so they actually make sense, but as with all things, it's just something I haven't got around to yet. Yeah, so these ones are going to be a little bit trickier because I need to make sure that we don't mess up the existing code we had for like exploring star systems and such. Although they do need rolling into this new system now. So we've got these three commands here. Yeah, then we need to make sure that we don't try and press the FTL button if we're already at FTL. Otherwise, it will knock us out of FTL. But we will come back to this when we do the explore this system code. So we only need one of these actually. Okay, so if we are at sublight, then we can go ahead and press the FTL button. If we're already engaging it, we don't want to. If we're at warp already, we don't want to. Or if we're disengaging, then nothing will happen if we press it anyway. So that's an awkward one. If you try and get the NPC to go somewhere whilst it's in the process of slowing the ship down, I suppose the best way of handling that is if we stick like a half-second delay on there and just get it to loop round and try again, because that disengaging warp state is kind of like a transient state which doesn't last for very long. 5 to 10 seconds at most if you're going maximum velocity. So eventually that will change to one of these, either at warp or sublight. So it should be safe to have that sit there trying over and over until it actually comes up with some other pin. And I suppose similarly, we'll want to do the same with the autopilot as well. So if the autopilot is on, we don't want to turn it off. Although I think they're two separate buttons here, so yeah, so that's fine. We won't have that issue with that one. Right, let's give that a try. Okay, so that's our command target. Navigate to command target, and off we go. Okay, that works. I need to sort out the chair rotations, as you can see, because they're they turn the chair to face you and then don't turn back again, so that needs fixing. So what we want to check for now then is, obviously right now autopilot's engaged and the FTL is engaged. If we now choose a different star system and tell the NPC to go there instead, we want to make sure that we do that without any of this turning off. which looks like we're good. So it's not creating the label, although it might be. It could just be that the power cable's called something different. To check that. Okay, let's go Barnard Star. Go there. Looking good. And then if we go back to Earth, yep, that works. And if we target something on here, let's say that neutron star, and go to the sensor target, and we go there instead. Okay, great. So that's all three of those apparently working. Now, one thing that won't work right now is doing this whilst you're sat in a chair. And sitting in the chair also seems to bring up a broken menu, which isn't helpful. Because the code that is running when you're standing up all needs porting across to the chairs as well. So that should be easy enough to do. All copy paste for the most part. Yeah, then that would be fine as well. Okay, so in addition to these, so again, we really want the UI to be as kind of helpful and intelligent as possible, in that it will provide you with the options you want when you need them, and trying to limit the amount of clicking that you're doing. So it's like right now, obviously it's giving you all 4 sensor modes, and I'm wondering whether or not it would be more useful, like if you're already on, say, the long range, to have the long range options available on there, rather than having to go into long range every single time to find the option you want. Or is it going to be more convenient to be able to say, right, go straight to the short range, rather than having to click back and then short range? I guess we'll figure that out as we go. I forgot neutron stars were that bright. I suppose we better check that command targets are working in the local system as well. They do seem to be, so that's good. I suppose the other thing we need to check actually is that we have the target radius, which I don't know that we're going to. Yeah, because it still thinks we're going to a neutron star, even though we've targeted a planet. So I imagine what's going to happen here is we're going to end up inside it. I reckon so, AJ, yeah. Oh yeah, we're, yes, ploughing into a planet. Okay. So I assume we're going to stop 11 kilometers from the target. Oh, 16 kilometers, close enough. Okay. Thank you, CSI. Much appreciated. But yeah, so I suppose if you're wanting to do this without the mouse, you could press F, and then I guess 1 could be order, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could just do like F1, F and then 1, and then whatever option you want on there. Yeah, I don't see why we can't do that. It should be easy enough. Certainly, if you're doing it through muscle memory, it'll certainly be quicker to get stuff done. Yeah, 0 for cancel, that works, or escape. I think I already set escape up. No, I didn't. I thought I had, but yeah, escape should always cancel it. Interesting. I wonder why we're not processing escape there. But yes, so again, with an environment like this where there is so much stuff that can be interacted with, and so many different permutations as to how you interact with things, the human interface to that needs to be as slick as it possibly can be. Yeah, well done, AJ. Good job. Yeah, I suppose the other thing we need to check is just make sure that that is actually targeting the local object as well, which it is. And then can we send that to the helm and then use the sensor target? Yes. So they all do connect together, which is nice to see. Because ultimately, we just want to stay sat in that chair and completely command the bridge without actually having to get up. I mean, you might need to step forward and interact with the holo display, but ultimately you should be able to issue orders to the crew members without having to wander over to any of these consoles. Okay, so I guess we need use command target to be added to these, and yeah, I guess then that was the next question, is like if we're on long range, we need to go to the focused sensor mode. So if we're targeting a particular star system, say Altair for example, which you can't with that up. Yeah, so we want to be able to tell the sensors guy to do a long range survey of that star from our command perspective. So click the star system and say show us the details or focus on this target, something like that. Which makes me wonder, actually, if we have sensor modes as a folder, I suppose, and then we have all the different sensor modes selectable from there, and then when you pick one, have it actually go back to level 0, where we have sensor specific sensor mode buttons and options on here. So yeah, so we'd have dismiss NPC, sensor modes, and then the actions relevant to the mode that you're on. That way you'll still have the context actions straight away, and retain the ability to go to whatever sensor mode you want without having to go back to get to it. Let's just give that a try and see how that feels. And a lot of this so far has basically boiled down just to suck it and see, because what you think might work in practice, once you actually try it, often doesn't work or feels clunky or doesn't sit right in some way. Hey, Mike Denson. Good to see you. Okay, so when we're building our level 0, we're doing our basic checks, like can the chair spawn an NPC? If so, is there an NPC in it? And if there is, then which NPC is it? And then we generate the options relevant to whichever NPC happens to be sat in the chair. So in this instance, we're dealing with the sensors. So dismiss NPC is always going to be the top option. And then if we make this one, sensor modes, and then we're going to make that a submenu. Making this an enum has been extremely helpful. Actually, make that both, because no, make it a submenu. Before the reason we had it set to both is because it needed to trigger the sensor's mode change, but also update the radial menu to show the new options. But what we'll do instead is we will take our range controls, and then we'll fire those based on our sensor mode, which means this needs to have 4 sub items, 1 for each of the sensor modes. So that would be GPS. Let's call it galactic position just to make it nicer. Okay, so there are no sub items. It's an action, and we will both keep the menu open and refresh it so it goes back to our level 0, and then the action ID was sensor GPS. Let's just move all these ones out of the way a minute. Yeah, the short range sensors constantly ping, because it's those short range sensors where you would expect everything to be changing dynamically fairly regularly. On the long range, generally speaking, we're not expecting anything to change very often, because it's basically just stars. Although we'll probably have alien vessels at warp that are actively traveling around. Probably have them show up on long range, because they're obviously outputting a tremendous amount of noise. And given that the sensors use micro lensing to detect sources of mass, something that's compressing space to travel is definitely going to be causing micro lensing. So that one is medium range, and that one is short range. Of course, we need the right channel, so that's bridge commands, sensors. Okay, so what this is actually going to do from a menu perspective, because these are going to be level 1 actions. So we click sensor modes to take us to level 1, and then when we click something on level 1, we are needing to check to see what to perform action-wise. So I suppose actually this is going to have to come under both, because we need to perform this this refresh menu check, which right now we're not doing because there's been nothing that needs it. But now that we need it, we need to make sure that we rebuild our level 0 menu and perform our refresh. So what we're doing on level 0 is we are basically grabbing our data from the chair or whatever else we're looking at, rebuilding that data, and then rebuilding our menu accordingly. So we need to grab a copy of that. Ignore that for a minute. Okay, so if refresh menu is true, we're going to grab our data, and so the action that we would have triggered would have been to change the sensor mode. So when we then re-request that data from the chairs, we are now getting new information because we're now getting the new sensor mode. So the level 0 menu with its contextual actions will now be different because we've just changed what mode the sensors are on. And then we can fade the menu back in. We also have to fade it out too. Okay, so we fade it out, refresh it, and rebuild it, of course. Refresh the data, build the menu, fade the ring back in. Okay, that should handle that, but we need to make sure that we have it set to both, so that after, actually no, not both, no, an action will suffice actually. Yeah, because we're not changing where we are in the menu structure. We're just firing an action and then refreshing it. So that should be okay as is. We might need to add a delay here, because when we fire the event for updating the sensors, we're going to be following up with getting that data like immediately, and that might not have finished updating by the time that this requests it. So we might need to have some kind of pending check that it looks for and then doesn't proceed until that returns true. But we'll just try it like hard mode first and see whether it does it. Right, so the sensor modes is now a sub-menu, which gives us our 4 sensor modes, and then everything else then becomes a context action. So I suppose if we do zoom in and zoom out as our first two, so we got dismiss, sensor modes, zoom in and zoom out are the same action ID regardless of what menu you're on, so it doesn't matter if we fire those, so they'll always be there basically. Our increase range with zoom out. And the reason I have to recreate this, because this is a level 0 struct and this is a level 1 struct. So as much as they have the same fields on them, we're nesting one struct within the other, so they have to be physically separate structs. Just put that one in the wrong place. Action and action, and we're going to leave the sensors open. We're not going to refresh them, and there are no sub items on these ones. Okay, so dismiss, sensor modes, zoom in and out are always there, and then we come to the context stuff. Yeah, potentially. That would be nice, for sure. Yeah, because right now we're having to do basically this same setup task on anything that has a context. So anything that has its own context-aware menu, we're driving the menu from the thing you're looking at. So it has control over what appears on the menu. So we can get rid of those, just so that we know how many we got for each one. Again, we don't need those. All that. Yeah, so when it comes to adding these array pins, yeah, I guess we're going to have to use our include boolean to skip the ones that are not relevant in its precise moment. I guess if we start with the long range, yeah, so long range is going to have the most in terms of the things that it is needing to show on the menu, because we're going to have like the focus target and everything else. Just wondering, we could do a switch and have a separate make array node for each sensor mode, which to be honest might be the better way forward with that. Right, what data do we actually have? Okay, so I think what we'll do is we will I'll grab a copy of the sensor mode, because we don't actually have that information stored. So every time the sensors update, they broadcast out a state file. So anything that cares knows what the sensors are doing at any given moment. So I think what we'll do is we'll send that out and intercept it here. And then we'll just store that as a variable. So when we build our context menu, we can do a select on the current sensor mode and then present the options that are needed based on that mode. Now obviously we are looking at the chair and interacting with the chair, which will eventually be an actual NPC. So we're not actually interacting with the sensors themselves directly, but we still need to know what sensor mode is currently active. And the only way to do that is to be able to get a copy of that state file. So if we just copy paste the one from the holo display, because it's right there and easy to copy. So sensors update. Yeah, so basically that's just that essentially. Again, this is the plugin that we need to replace, and the reason I haven't just deleted this plugin yet, as you can see, like all of this stuff is all relying on broadcasts from this global event handler. So there's going to be a lot of stuff which needs to be ripped out and replaced with the gameplay messaging subsystem instead of this plugin. But there's a lot of blueprints that look like this with many references to that. So yes, it's going to be a slow process deleting them all. Right, and then on there, where's our begin play hiding? No, that's not it. That's not it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so again, see, we've got all these references to this event handler, which we need to slowly wheedle out. Let's move this out of the way a minute. Pop that in there. Okay, so all we're going to do is just create a variable, and then whenever the sensors update their broadcast, then we'll just grab a copy of that sensor's data, which means when we grab our interface, which I can't find, what we can do now is we can grab a copy of our sensors data, break that, get rid of all the stuff we don't need, grab our sensors mode, and now we can do a select on that so we know exactly which sensors mode is currently active. Something I'm going to do is split this at some point into each of the 4 modes, so that we're replicating only a quarter of the data each time, rather than replicating data from modes that aren't active. which means we'll probably make 5 broadcasts for this. One as a general lightweight, this is what the sensors are currently doing, which is like a really, really tiny payload and easy to share around for cases like this where you just need to know what the sensor mode is. And then for any system that needs more specific data, we'll send per system, per mode rather, data, which is going to be much bigger. So yeah, if we pop that in there. And all we need to do is just do one of these for each of our sensor modes. So the first 4 options are going to be the same for all of them. So it's going to be quite... Actually, let's see if we can make this a little bit more sensible in how we do it. It's difficult to avoid the amount of spaghetti that we're going to create with this, simply because we have 4 things which are being used on all of them, and yeah, and then I have messed one up somewhere. That one, that one, that one, and that one. Right, and then we move those out the way a bit. Right, so those are the ones which are always needed on all 4 modes, and then we can add as many child pins as we need. So for the GPS mode, we're not going to need anything else right now, so we can just stick a label on that actually. Just so future me knows what he's looking at. Well, science is the one we're doing now. So the sensor station is the science com. The security one will be done probably last, because it's the internal security. The tactical console will be done probably after comms. So I guess in terms of the order in which we're developing things here, first of all, we want to polish off this ability to be in command, the ability to order NPCs around, the ability to command the ship without having to run around clicking on things yourself. So that's kind of step 1. Then we need to work on interacting with things beyond the ship. So we've already started with the probes, so the ability to send a probe down to a planet and bring stuff back. That's kind of the first step in interacting with things outside of the ship. And then we'll have the ability to speak to the civilizations that you find out there, so we'll start working on the comms. So working on comms inevitably leads to diplomacy, which inevitably leads to failed diplomacy, which then inevitably leads to requiring a tactical console. So kind of that's how the flow is going to go. So so physical interaction first, then the comms, and then after the comms is working, then we'll start moving on to the tactical stuff. And at some point in the middle of all of that, we'll also continue fleshing out, the planetary landings and the ability to spawn in like procedural derelicts and that sort of thing. Just spread these out a bit so we're not kind of falling all over ourselves with all the spaghetti. Yeah, indeed. Okay, so we've got NPC modes, zoom in, zoom out. So this is long range specific stuff. So I guess that aside, let's forget about that for a minute. So we're going to need use command target. Just so that we can target whatever the bridge is targeting. See, there's a context in that as well. So, like if we don't have a command target, then obviously that's irrelevant. I mean, we could make a command target sub-menu with the command target options on it, but I really want to avoid sub-menus as much as possible because we don't want too many clicks and too many nested options. So it's that balance between keeping it organized and not requiring too much in the way of clicking through things. But yeah, so obviously we've got use command target so that we target that. We also want focus focus on command target, I suppose, because as much as we have the ability to just target that object, I guess that in itself is kind of useless to us because you can't really do anything with that without focusing on it. So maybe if we don't have that and we just focus on the command target, yeah, then we'll have long range scan. So perform survey. Well, I suppose we'll call it long range survey. We'll be aware of the space that we have available to us, which isn't much. I suppose in the future we can maybe grey these options out if they're not relevant, rather than just not having them at all. I suppose we also need the center helm, don't we? We can probably fit that on 2 lines. Although, do we need center helm? Because if we've got a command target, really that's a little bit redundant, because if we've got something selected on the holo display anyway, we'll just speak to the helm person directly and then say, right, just go there. We wouldn't necessarily need the sensors person to do it. Like, you know, can you tell that person for me when they're like literally within earshot of you? You don't need a middleman, so I don't think center helm is necessarily useful to us. Although I guess we do need a back option on there, so we've told them to focus on the command target, which of course brings up the orrery map, and we can ask them to do a survey from that point. If we then wanted to target a different star system, I guess we'd have to ask them then to go back to the main listing, like back to stellar listing or something like that. Call it that for now. Or back to overview. That's probably less wordy, because we want to be able to, in a command position, to be able to point at a star, tell the sensors guy, right, focus on this, do a survey, right, now let's focus on this one instead and do a survey, so that we're constantly, if we want to get involved as a captain, we're picking different targets and saying, right, scan this one, now you scan this one, now scan this one. You could just set them about their business, saying, right, go find me an Earth-like. But we want the ability to be more directly in command if we want to be. But yeah, I think those 3 options should be sufficient. This is going to get messy. Right, so on the medium range then, we don't have as much back and forth on the medium range. So yeah, having a command target on the medium range isn't really useful, because the only thing you can really do on a medium range is conduct a survey. Yeah, so zooming in and out and doing a survey is about all you can do. So
Hey!
A wild Claire has appeared.
Not that wild.
She's quite wild. But she's all the way down there on the floor, so sadly you can't see her. Hang on, bear with, she's just plugging things in. Normally she sat in the house in her nice warm desk area.
Yeah.
She's come to join us in the office.
Yeah, just to disturb him. Thanks.
You good? You all plugged in?
Yep.
Good, good. I like using more more natural language rather than just saying a long range survey. You'd just say, you know, conduct a survey. So we'll leave it at that. We'll come up with some action ideas for this as well. Yeah, so that one goes on medium range. And then on the short range, there's going to be a few additional options on here. So I guess conduct scan, or perform a scan. Mix it up a bit. What else do we have on the short range? I guess we also have the surface map, don't we? So toggle surface map with an A, not an S. Yeah, thank you, Swamp. Very much appreciated. Oh, see, now she wants stuff. Oh, look, you can use the new cable. Hang on. Let me sort Claire out a minute.
You didn't need to, you just had to pass them over.
It's fine. Look, I'm here. You can try out the cable for me and make sure it works.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I have all of it. Okay, so short range scans, toggling the surface map, and then we can also, again contextually perhaps, have all the various different map overlays for the surface map as well. Things like toggling cloud layers and that sort of thing. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of context stuff with this, and I shall have to come up with a way of making it better than this. This is a very spaghetti-ish way of doing it, but you need like an exec pin for a lot of the context stuff we could use. Right now we're not using any context pins at all, and any execution pins. We're just grabbing the data and setting it directly. I might need to change the way we do this so that we're not doing this quite so much, because what I'd like to do is build the array with a for each loop instead, and then skip the entries that are not relevant to us. But the issue with that is we're doing this by way of this. So there's our execution pin up there. So we'd have to build those loops into this rather than just doing simple select statements. It just makes it more awkward, basically. I'll have to see whether or not there's like a Spotify API that we can use. I mean, there might well be. I mean, do Spotify even have an API? I'm sure they do. Web API, Spotify for developers. So you've got to create an app, select Web API, select which API you want to use. Grab your app credentials and set up access tokens for API requests. So the Spotify Web API provides a wide range of functionality for developers, including retrieving data from your favorite artists, albums or shows, doing searches, doing playback, blah blah blah. So that's a maybe. I guess it's going to depend on the cost of the API tokens and whether or not that's going to be prohibitive. We're already having to pay out API tokens for using the YouTube API, so again, we'll just have to see what the cost is with that. Okay, so before we hook up the actions to all these options, let's just see that the options themselves are in fact working. Yeah, it's one of those things where like we'd have it, obviously the screens aren't here right now, but over here on the environmental control station, we could just have music piped into the bridge and just have that set up on Spotify. I mean, if the API supports it, it could be a nice addition. It's just a bit of flavor, isn't it? I don't know, AJ, maybe. We shall have to see. Yeah, just playing a local MP3 or something should be much easier to achieve. Right, so currently we're on GPS mode, so yeah, we're only getting increase and decrease range. So we just get that in view, so we should be able to increase and decrease our range. And then under sensor modes, we have our 4 modes. So we have long range, and now we have additional options because we're on the long range. Okay, so if we change to medium range, we have different options there. Like, I felt like the need for a back button there. I guess that's just getting to grips with using it, I suppose. Yeah, so changing modes requires a button press. It does that sometimes. It's weird. Yeah, I guess from a day-to-day usage perspective, having the options relevant to the mode you're on immediately in front of you is more useful. I guess you're going to be doing that more often than you are changing modes. And as soon as you do change modes, it does give you those options immediately, which is nice. And yeah, they still work, which is good. That give us a... oh, yeah, that's in the wrong place. Right, so long range. Okay, so if we've got something set as our command target then, yeah, so we're already contextually on the right mode, which is nice. And then we lose the command target when we do our range change because we're not refreshing that when we refresh the holo display. So perhaps let's maybe get that done, so then we won't lose our holo target. What's the best way of doing this, I wonder? I guess if we look at where we actually generate the targets. So when we're generating all the little stars on the map, if we're within 20 light years, so there aren't as many on screen, then we add these celestial target blobs that you can click on. So I suppose what we need to do is, yeah, make some data available there, because we are setting, yeah, we're setting some of that data on here anyway. So yeah, then we're setting whether it's a sector location. Right, okay, so we can do this on begin play on these guys actually. So grab that. Right, so on begin play then, we want to, so annulling that, sorting out the nameplate. Right, then when we click on it, we make sure they're all refreshed as off. So before we do that, or rather after we do that, yeah, we need a sequence in here. So if we actually, let's do that first to set up our event listener. Okay, so we set up the reset, set up our timer, and then if we get game state, cast to game state, we can get our command target. So we're storing our current command target as a replicated variable on our game state, which means if we break that, then we have access to our sector location and our system object, and that depends on whether or not we are in sector location mode. So what we can actually do, what's the best way of doing this? Because we want to set the visibility and our timer depending on whether or not we are currently the object that should be selected. So if we make that select instead, yeah, so we've got a sector location that we set, and our celestial object which we set. Oops, no we don't. So both of those are set when the actor is spawned. So for both of these, we want our coordinates. So galactic coordinates in that instance. And then we want the local coordinates in this instance. And then we need to do the same with this. Let's just move that out of the way a bit. Galactic coordinates, local coordinates. So actually, so if that is true, I suppose we do want that. Yeah, that's probably the best way of doing it. So what we're checking is if we are dealing with a sector location, as in we're on galactic mode, then we're comparing the galactic coordinates, and if they match, we get a true here, so we set our target as visible. If we're not dealing with sector location, as in we're dealing with a celestial object, we're checking to see whether the celestial object coordinates match the object that we are, in which case that would be true. So we're basically working out which true do we want to deal with. We don't want to just do an or boolean on here, because we might have matching galactic coordinates, as in we're in that system, but we've targeted a different planet. So if we used or on this, then all of the planets in the system would think they were targeted, which we don't want. So that should do us, I reckon. And that just needs to be unpause timer. So yeah, so this only runs obviously when the object is first spawned in, and if neither of these match, then it's going to be false anyway, so we won't do any of that. So let's just give that a try a minute. Yeah, multiplayer is an added complexity that we could certainly have done without. I'd say, yeah, without any exaggeration, I think adding multiplayer makes everything 10 times more difficult, because you're not just dealing with a local state or a local variable that you're checking. All of a sudden, you've got network ownership to worry about, you've got replication to worry about, you've got packet management to worry about. There are so many added layers of complexity, and even if you get your ownership working and your logic working and everything's flowing nicely, you're then coming up against, okay, so now your packets are too large, so the message that you want to get through isn't getting through because it's being dropped because the packet's got, you know, too large of a header or something. So yeah, so adding networking to a game is just not something you should do if you can avoid it. It's just a nightmare. Obviously, for the game we're making, not having it multiplayer, I think, would be hugely detrimental to the game's future. there's only so much fun you can have in a game like this on your own. It really needs multiplayer to make it that kind of RPG experience that we wanted, that kind of Dungeons and Dragons in space experience that we wanted. But yeah, so I don't regret adding multiplayer, but yeah, I do loathe it at the same time. Oh god, yeah. It's like the number one thing. Any indie developer making their first game, everyone will say, don't make your first game multiplayer. Just don't do it, because if you're still learning and you're not experienced with making games and shipping games, having the extra weight and complexity of multiplayer on top of what is already a difficult challenge of making a successful title, it's just too much. So yeah, I would definitely advise against adding multiplayer to a first game. It gives me no end of sleepless nights. Like, all of our bugs on the bug tracker are pretty much multiplayer bugs. Because everything I do... that didn't work. Yeah, everything I do might work fine in single player, but then it will fall on its face in multiplayer, guaranteed. Or in single player like this. So that's what it shouldn't look like. Too many tabs. No worries, anytime. Yeah, testing in multiplayer again is very difficult, because even if you're running multiple clients within the editor to test out something, for really basic stuff you can do that and it's fine, but when you actually try and do things in a proper multiplayer environment where you've got latency and dealing with a remote server somewhere, guaranteed things are going to behave differently. Even simple things behave differently. So when you're trying to debug a multiplayer issue, generally speaking, you have to tweak some small value, package the game, upload the game to, say, Steam, make a build live on Steam, and go for all the rigmarole that entails, test it for all of about 15 seconds, and then go and tweak another small value, and then go through the whole packaging process again. So the time delay between small tweaks is something like 15-20 minutes, like, per little tweak. Whereas for a single player bug, it could be, say, 10-15 seconds between little tweaks. So yeah, trying to debug multiplayer issues is an absolute nightmare. One we could do without, but it is what it is. This game needs it, so we're putting ourselves through that pain and suffering just for you. Just want to make sure that that and that are definitely set. Yeah, so they're not visible by default, so It's the only way that all of them could think they are the selected option is if these were probably null values. So if that is false and those are all zeroed out, I bet that's what's probably happening. Let's find out. So this, oops, and the command target is that. And I suppose we'll also have our Boolean value just cause. Let's try spelling it right. Well, actually, no, we want. So in our long range mode, obviously we're dealing with sector locations, so those are the vectors we're comparing. And I'm wondering, again, whether or not those are zeroed out. So that should be returning true. Yeah, so we're getting true like we want, but as suspected, they're all reporting nothing because we haven't actually clicked on anything. So now, if we just change our zoom level, that's interesting. Are we not? I would have thought we'd be respawning those. In which case they should be coming up with that debug. So I can understand why this would be returning 0 because we haven't targeted anything yet. But because of that, this shouldn't be 0. Because when we spawned that, hang on, let's go find our holo display. Yeah, because we're specifically setting that from this pin way all the way over here. So yeah, so each sector location, this is one of those god-awful messes that I need to tidy up at some point. Right, let's just stick that over there so we can track it. Yeah, so we're taking our sector location, now we're looping through each of those. So this is basically all the data we have for the local sectors. We're going through each and every individual star, giving it a color. This is for the little blob you see on the holo display, and just changing the brightness and that sort of thing. And then if we are within 20 light years, then obviously that only returns true if we're within 20 light years. We then spawn our text render for our label and our targetable blob that we can click on. So we're reading that same data, which we're then giving it as the sector location. So is that failing? Because that would certainly explain it if that cast was failing, because it means it wasn't actually setting that data. I suppose if this is a successful cast, then we are giving it our coordinates, in which case we want to do some more spammage. Right, so we should either see a red cast failure or a green set of coordinates, which should be something other than 0. Interesting. Okay, so those greens that were popping up were the correct coordinates, but when trying to access that variable, we're getting 0 value, which is interesting, because this is the variable that we're setting. So sector location, our replicated variable, which we're setting there, sector location, replicated variable. So if we're setting it there and it's returning the correct value here, then why is it reporting 0, 0, 0 when we read it from here? Galactic coordinates. Galactic coordinates there. Unless I'm wondering whether or not that's not reading it quickly enough, because we're spawning the actor, and then we're setting those variables afterwards. Not doing anything with that. Yeah, so we're spawning it, we're attaching it to the long-range anchor that we've got. We're moving it around, and then we're setting some variables. I'm just wondering whether or not we can we expose them on there? It'd be nice if we could. It might be that we delay on this. So sector location, let's expose it on spawn. So I'm hoping we'll access it from there. No such luck. See, it'll be on here, under there, but unless we can do it more immediately. Well, actually, what we could do, if we construct object from class, target celestial, okay, so we can access it there. Then can we then add that as, so we add our child actor component, and then set class yeah, that I guess that's not constructing as a child object though, is it? So that's probably not helping us. This is one of those edge case things, I don't think. That's never going to work, surely. Don't think that's going to work, but let's see. So if we skip that, no, I don't think that would work. I think the issue here is that's not a child object, so yeah, so we would have to do I think just adding a delay is probably the only thing we can do to that in order to make it behave the way we want it to behave. Right, let's keep that a minute, and then if we add a small delay on here, let's say half a second, and then we'll see whether or not we get a different result. Okay, yeah, so I think it is that, it's that we're trying to check for the value ahead of it setting that value. So if we now target that and we zoom the map, it should recreate it. Yeah, there we go. So that came back after half a second. So the question then is, how long is that actually taking? Survey until next tick. So if we just wait a single tick, that might even be enough. Yeah, the issue with the default value, and we've encountered this a few times, is 000 is exactly where Sag A is. So it means you can no longer target Sag A if we don't allow 0, 0, 0 as a valid option, which is just annoying. Yeah, that worked. So a single tick was enough, which means we should be able to now zoom that. Yeah, so we can zoom in and out, and it retains the command target because it knows where it is. So if we do that, then our command target persists. Okay, good. So problem solved. I will just test it on the non-sector location version though, just to make sure. Right, so we don't need that debug, we don't need that. So what I can probably do is cast to that class and set these variables like immediately before we attach it to stuff and start moving it around. But not to worry. Right, oh yeah, let's just check the local version and then we shall move on. So medium range, zoom in a bit. Oops. Other way, I always get them mixed up. Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like how much do you engineer the solution? Yeah, Unreal can't have null vectors, or at least not in blueprints it can't. So if you clear a vector, it just zeroes out the values. So you can't have a null value, it's just 0. But because 0 is actually a place, then obviously we'd have to use some other value as 0. I mean, what I've done previously, and I've just set the default to like 9999999, like somewhere that the player is unlikely to ever go, which means it's never going to crop up as an issue. So if the value is like 9999999, then we know that that is a null value in terms of the logic. Yeah, we do actually have a boolean for that on the sensors. I don't think we do on the helm though. But yeah, just using some kind of a boolean value to determine whether or not we actively have a target would be probably the cleanest solution. Yeah, it's a very, very long way. If it takes you 4 days to travel 26,000 light years, then 2.5 billion light years would take you quite a long way. Actually, what is the max effect? Because we can probably do the math on that. So if we make, yeah, so 2.1 billion. So if we divide and make a float. Okay, so it's that many light years. and we can travel 300 light years per hour, so it's that many hours, which would be 298,000 days, which is the equivalent of 817 years. So yeah, so a max int coordinate would be 817 years away at max warp. Fun. Oh yeah, I forgot these were no longer a thing. This is one of the things we have to unbreak, is handling some of the orders for the global commands. But we'll see whether we get around to those tonight. Okay, so... oh yeah, wormholes. Good point. And the max int wormhole. That might have to be a thing. So I think let's go through those long range commands and see whether or not we can make them make sense. Yeah, for sure. I like silly little Easter eggs like that. Right, so I think we're finished with that. I'm pretty sure that's not going to need any further tweaking. Obviously, it all needs testing in multiplayer, which is something you guys do brilliantly at, so I shall look forward to your bug reports. So we're going to need to keep that hanging around, I suppose. Don't need that. Don't need that. Right, so for each of these, we basically need to follow the logic through. So we're sending this to the sensors, so we want focus, command, target. So we need to now implement what happens on receipt of this action ID. So for that we need our sensors. And then I need to remember where we do that. So, no, here. Where did I set this up? Put a box around it. Okay, so we're sending on this channel, we're sending our action ID through, and that's simply taking us to here where we then process all of those things. So I guess for a lot of them, we're just basically forcing a button press. Which is easy enough. We just set our button ID and we force that on the UI. which is certainly the case for this one. Got to squeeze that underneath somewhere. It's getting a bit spaghetti-ish, as these things invariably do. Okay, so I suppose we need to make sure that we are grabbing the right button when we force our button press. Sec. Force button. How are we doing that? Okay, so yeah, so we're setting our button ID, and then we're going through each of our sensor modes, and then depending on what our button ID actually is, we do a thing. Again, it's quite brute forcey. It'd be nice to refine this a little bit. Yeah, so we need to hook up the use sensor target buttons, the use command target button rather. Yeah, so I guess we're just going to set our action message and then send that through. But I guess the button we actually want to press is the long range detailed button, this one here. So that's the one we're actually pressing. Top tip, by the way, this is something that I didn't learn until literally yesterday. If you shift click one of the pins, then it will remain highlighted. So when you zoom out, you don't suddenly lose it in the spam. So I find that immensely useful in instances like this where you've got a lot of pins, and then you just shift click it again to get rid, and you can see now it's just kind of gone away. That one's now highlighted for bug reasons. But yeah, very useful to know. Yeah, there's probably like a dozen other Unreal related functions that I've just not noticed over the years. We need like a cheat sheet somewhere that has them all written down on it. Okay, so we need... Yes, we need to do two things on here, really. We need to, first of all, target the coordinates from pressing the button. And then we actually need to fire this to switch the sensors across to the detail mode where we can actually see that star system. So let me just double check what's happening on the sensors itself. Let's get rid of some of these other ones. We'll come back to those. Yeah, so each one of these is different depending on which sensor mode we're on. So there's like 3 versions of this button. Okay. Yeah, so we're basically overriding our selected object on the sensors. So it's kind of again like a bit of a brute force approach. So we're overriding the normal way of doing things. Then you select it on the menu, and we're just forcing that selection on here. So we need to go through and do the same thing, and then trigger the pressing of the other button. And I'm just wondering whether it's probably going to be better to do this on the widget than it is to try and do it on the blueprint, because the issue with doing it here, as much as we're able to update the sensors data, we're not actually physically pressing the buttons like we would do if we were doing it from the UI. So that would mean basically changing this. So get this processed on the UI, which means we wouldn't need to manually specify these. Yeah, and then we can still do the same switch to make sure we're pressing the right buttons on our zoom in and zoom out. Okay, so I think what we'll do then is we'll take off the command target one, and we will recreate this on the UI. We'll keep this one for the existing ones, and we'll kind of port them over. And then on construct, I suppose I'll do it here. Pop that in there. So basically, we'll just have the radial menu commands come through, so they're listening to it. And then we will switch on string, and then we'll do all that same stuff, except we'll process the new ones from here. So what did we set it to? It was focus command target. Oh, nice. I'll have to find that again then. Yeah, generally speaking, things that get posted in Discord I miss, and then Claire will point it out to me, and then I'll see it. So yeah, so AJ's advice is probably quite sound, to be honest. If you want me to see it, show Claire, and then she'll make sure I see it. I'll add an extra event in here just to trigger this one. So long range command target. So this is why it's easier to do this from the UI, because we can fire that, which is no different than pressing the button on the UI. So long range command target. So that basically just does the same thing as pressing the button, and then we will have a brief delay, maybe a second. Doesn't need to be a second, to be honest, half a second will do. And then we want to fire the detail mode. So where's our long range detail button? There. So again, we'll just add a custom event on there. Long range details. So again, we are just simulating a button press, and that is way easier than doing it from the blueprint, and also makes it easier to string those button presses together, because what we're doing is we're basically saying press that button, wait half a second, then press that button. So we're pressing the same buttons that already exist on the UI. And then we'll do that for all of the more complicated button press sequences. So if I want to see this star in more detail, I should be able to click on that guy, click on focus on command target, and there we go. We're now showing that star system in more detail. The menu, however, did not vamoose on its own. So let's just make sure that we haven't got, oh yeah, look, we've got remain open was ticked, so we don't want that on there. We don't want that on there either. And we'll add actually the back button while we're at it. So we've got focus on command target. Our survey. Hang on, make sure that we're not doubling up on here, because obviously we're also processing these on the blueprint. So so we're just doing generically sensors survey. So I think what I'll do is disconnect that one. And that one. And also that one. Again, we'll start porting these over. So let's give them a meaningful name. So again, this is long range, so sensors long survey. That's the media. Oh. And that was me putting the wrong thing in the wrong place. That one goes on there. That one goes up there. So that should give us our back to overview button. So we've got long survey and long back that we need to add to the UI. So let's just save that one. Put those on there. So long survey, long back. And then we just need to know what button we're pressing, basically. Let's move that out the way, move that out the way. So that's our back button. Long range survey. Do we already have a button for that? If so, where? Oh, I see, it's a collapsed graph, that's why. That's our survey and our back button. Do the whole thing from over here just to make sure. Okay, so that's basically giving us our GPS stuff. I think I might put something in the middle here along with the cancel button that just says something like GPS, just so we know what we're actually dealing with. Maybe have an icon behind there as well, just again kind of help sell home the point that we're on the GPS mode. So we want long range, and then we're going to select our target. Let's go for that star system right there. Stand over here so we can see. So again, automatically defaults to long range now that we're on it. So we want to focus on the command target, like so. Which is great. And then we'll do a long-range survey.
Long-range survey.
Okay, so that worked.
Long-range survey complete.
And then if we want to go and look at a different star system, we should be able to go back there. Okay, great. Select Wolf 359, and then we'll focus on that one. Might be worth leaving that menu up actually on the focus, because having it go away is generally not what you'd want, because I think we'd probably want to immediately follow up with something after that. So yeah, so now we can either conduct another survey, so go back to an overview and make sure it's still set as our command target. So focus on command target, conduct survey.
Initiating long-range survey.
Okay, so this is good.
Long-range survey complete.
Okay, and then back to the overview. Great, so that gives us the ability to perform the surveys that we need and do all of that from the holo display via the NPC without needing to actually physically come over here and click on anything, which is good. But yeah, I will change it so that when we focus, we will keep the menu open for that one. Okay, so the next one then would be do our medium survey. Is that the only thing on medium? Yeah. Tidy. Right, so on medium range then, we'll find our survey button. Yeah, so again, we've got the user command target button. I don't think there's a lot of use for this at this point, but we shall see. Okay, so custom event, medium range survey. Just pop that in there as our button press. That one, and we may as well go ahead and do the short range as well while we're here. So we've got a short range scan and toggling our map. Sure that we're not doing that on here. Okay, yeah, so get rid of the map ones. Yeah, so for the map, we're actually we might keep that one, because we're grabbing our sensors data and just automatically seeing what is the closest thing within 3 million kilometers, and we're just automatically targeting that. Because we can't bring up the map or perform the scan without. Although no, I think we can. No, we can do this. The map. We can't do the scan. Yes, we don't need the map one, but for the scan one we do. So if we rename this to the long range, the short range one rather. Okay. And we'll keep handling this the old way for now. And then we'll just get rid of that from there a minute. But we will keep the map one. So just need to grab the button for that. Well, yeah, we'll do a check on this actually, to see whether or not the map is currently open. I think we're just checking which page we're on. We should have our sensors data available to us. Should be there we go, current page, that's the one. Yeah, so if we do a switch on that, then we can do our custom event here. Toggle surface map. So if we're currently on none, we will open the map. If we're on the map, we will close the map. Like so. And we don't have the cutaway built yet, so that can just stay there for now. That will eventually be like a 3D cutaway of the planet where you can see like the core glowing red and all that sort of stuff, which will be very cool. Oh, thank you, Max. Very much appreciated. We definitely need that at the moment. We've just sorted out our tax bill with the HMRC, and yeah, we had to pay an eye-watering amount of tax. So every little definitely helps. Thank you. You'd think that, but no. Kickstarter, Patreon, all of that stuff is all taxable income, which is madness. So basically, we have to pay 25% of all of our income. So, like, you know, the entirety of the Kickstarter, everything we've got from Ko-fi since Kickstarter, basically 25% of that goes straight to the taxman. Yeah. It was, well, just shy of 100 grand. Mad. Just, here you go, government, have all of our money. Yeah, it's all Rachel's fault. Okay, so if we go to medium range, that'd help if we could see it, wouldn't it? So we can zoom in and out, so we should be able to conduct our medium range survey, which we can, so that's good. I guess we need to add cancel survey on there as well as a button. Yep. And if we go to short range, so when we do our scan, it should automatically target because it's the closest object. So let's just try that, which it did, so that's good. Okay, scan complete. And then we should be able to toggle surface map, which we can. See, I'm wondering whether we make toggle surface map one of them both options. So when you click it, it comes up with all the different surface map options for things like the overlays, but also brings up the map. So rather than having to click it and then do those things, it just brings it up anyway because you've clicked the category. And then the radial menu doesn't go away, it just gives you the extra things with a back button. Yeah, I suppose the only thing that wouldn't give us is the ability to then close the surface map without also then giving you the buttons. Yeah, so we can do a gradual reveal of the material based on its physical position in the world. So we can use like a 0 to 1 range as a percentage to show the material filling up as we go. Definitely doable. It would be nicer if it came from where the ship is, so you see it grow outward from the ship. That's doable. And it would perhaps also be nice to, rather than just showing like a dotted line shoot out of the thing when we're scanning it, instead have it like you do with the surface map. So when you lock onto an object, you see the object in its entirety locked to the middle of the bridge. It would also be nice to see the ship floating next to it, but yeah, we do something like that, so we physically lock the object there, which would be useful, and then we can cleanly show the texture going across, which could be nice. The only downside to doing that is when we zoom out at a star system level, because this is using the orrery map. It's just using the orrery map with a very small zoom range, so you can see like there's the edge of the map creeping in. We can't put textures on everything, because those things would fill up VRAM very quickly. But yes, it's something we can do for sure. Yeah. I mean, we could have... Yeah, true, Firstus. Very true. And yeah, we can add the textures at range. That's definitely doable. We'd have to change how we generate textures to do that, but yeah, it's definitely doable. Yeah, I'm just wondering whether when we bring this up and keep it there, we have the controls for the map layers, but then the back button is essentially like close the map and return. So we could do something like that. Hang on, let's see how that works in practice. Because of course we don't have we don't have the forward or back buttons. Sorry, the zoom in and zoom out buttons. If we do that. Okay, so if we keep that open and we add some sub items, that makes this a both, because we need to toggle the map, but then also create the map options. We could also we can change these maybe like dynamically based on what we're doing, but let's add some sub options first. So we want toggle caps attack. So toggle clouds. I can't remember what order they went in. We'll do them in the same order. So clouds, Terminator and tech, and of course we'll have life when we actually get around to adding that. So toggle clouds, it's an action, it's on sensors. So yeah, we'll keep the menu open. So that gives us those buttons. Well, the issue is every time you click toggle surface map, it's going to toggle the surface map. So we'd need to know, because we've got our sensors data actually, so we can probably be intelligent about this. I hope so, AJ. Yeah, I hope this adds a lot more flow to the experience on the bridge. Again, I mean, our goal here is to make this as slick and as flowy as possible. You know, really smooth and approachable with the least amount of clunkiness possible. Right, so we know that we've got access to a current page, so we can potentially set this to not remain open if and that, yeah, if the map's open, we can change that to show surface map. Wow, that went all kinds of wrong. And then we can change what that says using some select statements. So remain open is true if it's not currently showing the map. And then so we can do show surface map, and if it's there already, we can do close surface map. Yeah, so if the map is up and you click close surface map, then the menu goes away. Whereas if you open it, then it gives you the extra options and stays open. So it kind of makes it more dynamic and context aware doing it this way. So let's just add these buttons so that we've got those abilities ready to go. And then we'll give it a whirl and see how it feels. So we want to add 3 more Ujimers on here. Where are they coming from? There. And again, we just need to create just some custom events to simulate those button presses. So let's just get rid of all these tabs. Honestly, I just spend my life collecting tabs, it would seem. Oh, I replaced it anyway. Right, so short range. Toggle clouds. Fortunately, that is already a toggle, so that's nice. Toggle terminator. there. So toggle clouds, toggle terminator, and toggle tech. Okay. Right, let's see how this feels. So we want to go to short range. So we now got show surface map. So if we bring that up, and we've got the menu remaining, which is nice. It's a shame that overflows a little bit. So we should be able to toggle clouds on and off. Great. Toggle the day-night terminator on and off, and toggle text signatures on and off. That's not Earth. Yeah, we're at Earth, but that is not Earth. So that's a bug. Yeah, for some reason it's showing an extremely cold Earth-like, which is in the middle of a glacier period.
Future Earth.
Yeah, Earth in the future.
We've gone into the future.
Okay, well, we'll dig into that one. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, so now we just have the option to close the surface map, and it goes away. Yeah, so I guess you would bring up the surface map, do the stuff that you want to do with it, go back and then close it. Oh, that was interesting. Oh, right, of course. So yeah, so it's not regenerating the menu options when you hit back. So it still says show surface map even though it's there, because we haven't gone through the process of requerying the chair essentially to get the current sensor mode. So we're probably going to have to do that. What we don't want to do is redraw the menu, because we specifically wanted to show the sub options. So if we refresh menu, see, this is going to require another boolean, because so when we manage our level 0, so this is our refresh menu boolean here. So if that's true, then we're going to fade out the ring, refresh our data, and then redraw the level 0 menu, and present that one, which is what we don't want that, because we want it to go ahead and do this instead. So we want it to build our level 1 menu and show that. So we would need another boolean on here for like don't redraw or something like that. And have a third branch for that specifically. I mean, it is the only way of making that the smoothest it possibly could be. Yeah, I can't think of a better way of doing that, because if we had another branch there, and then we had so refresh. So we had that as redraw. So redraw menu is true. Then it will do the whole thing. Whereas if we weren't doing that, then we'd just do that instead. So we wouldn't fade it out, we wouldn't do anything like that, but we would re-update the data, but only that. So that when we press back, it's reading this version of the level 0 data, not the default version that we started with. Hey, Zotbox. Yeah, so as much as I don't want to add another Boolean to this, I think it's the only way we can control this the way we need it without it messing up the menu. And I suppose for future proofing it gives us a little bit more flexibility on how we approach things. So that said, we need access to that struct, and we're going to have to compile every blueprint that uses it. So we've got refresh menu and then redraw menu. And then we'll keep that one as defaulting to true, because we always want to redraw it if we're refreshing it, and right up until we don't. And yeah, we'll leave that defaulted to submenu as well. Thank you, AJ. Yes, always important to save. You know, I swear I clicked a button, like alt click or something the other day, that made a reroute pin without having to double click. And I don't know what I clicked on to do it. Something, but it just created a button without me having to double click, which is not always reliable. Would be nice to know what that was. Go, neat and tidy. Okay, so then all of these need to be compiled and saved, otherwise it will not package. Yeah, but doing it without double clicking, that's even better. Right. So of course everything now has redraw menu added to it by default. Now for this one we want redraw menu to be false. So what should happen is we'll get the pop-up with all of our things that we want, and then when we press back, it should then say close map rather than open. So go into short range, show map, and when we press back, it should no longer say show map. Aha! It says close. Perfect. Brilliant. Done. Worked exactly as we wanted it to. show surface map, do stuff, press back, and now we can close it if we want to. And the only other way we could do that is maybe have, rather than saying back, we could maybe have close map on there, like close and back. But yeah, I shall try a solution and see. No, that just gets rid of it. Yeah, of course, yeah, because control is move it, isn't it? So, what do we shift? No. No. No, Alt just gets rid of it completely. And then shift, of course, is highlight it. Don't know. I did something. I did something and it was in my left hand. That's all I know. Right, so I think, unless I've missed something, that's all of the sensor functionality working from the radial menu. Let's just go through them again just to make sure. Right, so we can zoom in and zoom out on the holo display there. We can get rid of the NPC, which doesn't go away, so I need to look at what's going on with that. Weird. Is it just no? I don't know. Something tricksy going on with that. We'll have to delve into it. So we can just dismiss the NPC, sit down if we're close enough, or summon the NPC back, do our range controls, change our sensor mode, which gives us new stuff, different stuff, and different stuff. We can do our map. We can close our map. We can do scans. We can again change our range. Survey. Okay, so I think that is everything on the sensors. So again, I need to copy all of that onto the chair, obviously. I'll do that off stream because that's just going to be a lot of really annoying copy pasting. Yeah, so then on the helm side of things, okay, we got dismiss, which isn't working the first time you do it, but then does work the second time. I think there's like a first time you click it bug there somewhere, so we need to track that down. But yeah, getting rid and coming back seems to be fine. Take us home shouldn't go anywhere because we're already home. Yeah, well done. So if I want to go, let's go to Pluto. So take us to Pluto. Okay, we seem to be heading there, so that's good. And then I guess we want to bring in an NPC. I wonder why it does that. Okay, so I need to look into that. Obviously, if you just cancel it and do it again, the NPC does come up, but not the first time. Help if I could see what I was doing. Oh, we are there already. Are we inside Pluto? Oh no, there it is. That's interesting. Oh, okay, yeah, so... Yeah, because we already had Earth targeted, the autopilot had the details for Earth. It hasn't picked up the details for Pluto. So when we select a command target and get the helm to use that target, we need to make sure that we're also passing through the details of the object. So we have things like the radius, because that's what the autopilot knows to work out where to stop, which is kind of why we've stopped so far away from Pluto, because it thinks it's Earth, radius-wise. Okay. There's going to be lots of little things like that. Yeah, so the only option you get on an office chair is just sit down. Oh yeah, and I need to work out why it's not releasing the mouse upon standing up. But yeah, so when you left click, it will always do the default option. So run up, left click, you just immediately sit down. Which is, oh, I just walked through the planet portal. And now I'm on the surface. Hello, hello. In the dark. Of course I'm on Pluto, so there's the sun and all the planets. While sat in a chair, no, not yet. That's the copy paste I need to do. Oh, see you, Aziza. Have a good one. But yeah, so left clicking with an NPC will bring the menu up. If you left click without an NPC, it will just sit you down, because that's the default option without an NPC in the chair. And as soon as you put an NPC in the chair, your default action is now to bring up the menu for the NPC. Again, that whole context awareness is to try and make the process as smooth as possible. But obviously F will always bring up the menu regardless, even if there's only one option, which is sit down. Although it hasn't released, so even though the menu's gone away, as you can see, it's still there-ish. So that needs looking at. Okay. So we're done for all the NPC commands on the sensors. That's tick. All the NPC commands on the helm, except the autopilot radius distance, which we need to fix. There won't be any captain's ones. Did I? Not sure if I actually. Oh no, I did. It just wasn't working. Yeah, so the captain one has nothing at the moment because we haven't hooked anything up to that. And I guess we'll have the same for these. Oh, this one's set as helm for some reason. That's weird. And that one shouldn't even have an NPC in it. Brilliant. Oh, how I love the chairs. They've been a source of constant joy. Yeah, so the next thing would be some of this generic menu stuff. So issuing orders on the bridge, speaking to the ship's computer, just to do stuff audibly with the computer in the room with you. And then yeah, things like emotes and things we'll just put coming soon on this. Really, it's just there to demonstrate that that's what will be there and that's how you'll get to it. But on the ship's AI side of things, we should at least be able to just have a lighting sub-menu with like lights up, lights down, lights on, lights off, that sort of thing. And just a generic status report. But yeah, orders is the next one we need to sort out. Because alert conditions aside, we need to do things like explore this system. So actually I'll use the NPC for this. So if we go to long range, what I want to be able to do is to select a system as my command target, hit F to bring up the orders menu, and then just say fully explore my target, or words to that effect, so that the NPC crew will then work amongst themselves to go and complete that mission. Essentially you're handing them a mission. The mission is fully explore this star system, and you do that through announcing the orders to the bridge as a whole, not to an individual sat in a chair. So that's kind of the next step in the evolution of how we're doing that. But I guess with 25 minutes left on the clock, let's see if we can sort out what's happening with this. So we have access to all the details of our command target. So we should be able to pull out the radius. I need to add something on there so you can click on it, because the UI is collapsed. Okay, so I don't think we're processing. Yeah, none of the orders are being processed on here. But what we could do, yeah, I was wondering where we're setting the radius exactly. We might actually be doing that on the panel itself. Yeah, it's true, they are. They're like little black holes, they suck NPCs in. Okay, so we're basically pulling our object details from this global event, which is a very old global event before we changed up a lot of stuff. So when we update the nav target. That should get fired. Let's go back through step by step through this so that we are getting everything lined up properly. Okay, so when we click that button, and we are sending button ID 15. Yeah, so this is before we started using strings as our button IDs, because using just an integer is difficult to remember. Like even the next day, what on earth 15 meant. Okay, blah 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 blah. Right, okay, so we are setting our object type there, and that's being set. That's an old thing that we can ignore, so we don't want that one. That's also not connected, so we can ignore that. Those are two set functions. Ah, right, so it's being set from here then. So we might be able to piggyback this. So sensors target updated. Ah, of course. Right, okay. Right, so whenever our sensor's state file fires, we're making a note of our target, and then we're basically just updating the UI and the autopilot with that object data. So what we need to do is when we send our signal through for using the command target, we basically need to do the same action but give it that object instead. Yeah, because if that's just a custom event, so what we can do, where are we? Okay, so we can use that. And then we can get that from game state. thing I want. Right. Okay, so this is going to require some jiggery pokery as well. So if we're using a sector location, then what we actually want to do, actually we can do that, yeah, we can do that from here. So if we grab basically all of the objects within the system, which of course we don't have, okay, so if we're not doing that, that's fine. We can just give it our system object, which we already have targeted. If we don't have one targeted, then ideally we need the central object, i.e. the star, but this won't have those details. But what I can do is we can maybe make the object so we're kind of cobbling together the details we need just for this that. So we need our object type, our name, which we'll get from our text fields, our radius, which comes from our physical characteristics, and our coordinates. So object type is large object types. Which is a different enum, so that's not very useful to us. Okay, so we're just going to set that to star system then. Local coords can stay 0, galactic coords can be that. Just wondering actually whether we cut out the middleman and just set these directly. Rather than going through the rigmarole of making this and then extracting the data for there, we could just set those directly from here. So yeah, so if we branch that instead. So right, so that's all irrelevant. So we want our galactic coordinates, we want that basically. So we've got our object name, make it a star system, got our radius, that's the radius is the import one anyway, and then that can be 0, so that's those ones done. And then If it's not a sector location, then we need our object type, and then we need to break some of these fields. Again, we only care about our radius and that one. Then we've got our galactic coordinates, our local coordinates, and I think everything else is irrelevant. Okay. So this definitely qualifies as a bodge. But so when we hit use command target, we should at that point populate populate these variables with everything that's needed. Okay, let's give that a whirl and see. So that's sending through that, which is just doing that. Okay, yeah, then we're not doing that bit of it, so we need to do it over here as well. Oh, Sophie, thank you. And have a good one, Seeker, as well. Yeah, so I'm going to have to skip or duplicate that rather. So hang on, let's just pop that over there a minute. Actually, if we can just set those variables. So we're already breaking that there. Okay, super hacky, but if we do that, obviously this is a temporary solution that will set those variables to make them available for doing that bit, which means we don't actually need to do it here because we fire that, which fires through that on 23, and then 23 comes here and does all that work anyway. Sets those up, fires that, and because this is coming back from player controller as a replicated event, that means that we can also do this bit replicated as well. Okay, let's just try that, and we should have our radiuses in control. So, oops. So if you could give us long range, thanks. So if we target Alpha Centauri, and then let's say, oh, of course. So back to overview needs to be grayed out unless you have that focused, but that's a separate complication. Right. So if we pick that random target, in fact, let's pick that one because it's in the habitable zone. So we've got a planet in the habitable zone. So we want to navigate to that. And yeah, that gives us our radius. Just plow through Earth. I'll change the default text that it uses because it's using Earth analog as the text, which of course we don't know yet because we haven't been there, so it's kind of cheating. So I'll fix that. Good night, CSI. Have a good one, and I will be off myself very shortly because it's almost midnight here. I'm sure at some point we'll have simulated chairs with movable backrests and all sorts, but they can come after the rest of the gameplay. So I just want to make sure that we arrive in front of the planet and not inside of it. Of course we're on the dark side. So if I can let's just yaw. Okay, that's good. We stopped in the right place. Okay, well, I think I will leave it there because anything else that I have to do is going to take longer than the 4 minutes that we have. What are we on? Wednesday. So, yes, I should be back Friday. We have nothing stopping us on Friday, do we, Claire?
No.
No. So, yes, we should be back to our usual schedule now. We are going to be at a games festival soon. I can't remember which day, but it's not like next week, so I shall keep you in the loop as to when that is. But yeah, so have a great rest of the week, and I shall see you all on Friday for more of this stuff. And in the meantime, I will keep plugging away at this and try and get it properly playable so we can put out a non-broken build. Right, have a good one, everyone, and I shall see you on Friday. Bye for now.
Bye.
Claire says bye.
Later.